All right. I mean, we still don't really have a name for this, but my name's Lunakage,
No, I'm Glenburg.
and this is our little wrestling show.
Yeah.
Talk radio, WJLB. I don't know.
Right. Just
There's
all wrestling.
right. I don't know. So I guess we should kind of explain the format here since it's our first show. Basically, we're just going to be talking about the happenings of pro wrestling. We're only covering WWE and TNA. We're not doing any of the indie things because they're not on television. You know, the internet, ITV doesn't really count
Yeah.
yet at least. You know, but we're just covering WWE and TNA. Mostly WWE because TNA doesn't really have a whole lot to talk about usually. We're going to go over the things that are happening and our opinions on them, as well as the champions and what we think of what they're doing and doing with champions themselves and the championship titles and what they might mean. And that's really about it. Yeah.
Yes, so this won't really be just like a traditional review show. We're just gonna give our thoughts about what's going on in the wrestling world.
Yep. Us and all the other 500 wrestling podcasts out there. So, what's first? What do you got what do you got for me?
We should probably talk about the recent events of WWE. I guess the
Yeah.
most prominent event is that they went ahead and unified the World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Championship.
Yep, and I thought, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people thought that it was long overdue. It's definitely good to only have one title now. Ever since they got rid of the brand extension, there was no need for two champions.
Yeah.
Yep, so it was good that they did it, and a lot of people dislike the fact that it was another John Cena Randy Orton match. But to be completely honest, like, I think that was kind of the perfect two people to do it. And I'm not really a fan of either one of them. Like, I respect John Cena because he fucking does everything. But,
Super Cena.
right, but I don't like when either one of them are holding championships because I just get bored.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, when we're talking about the modern era, like, pretty much John Cena and Randy Orton have kind of ruled it. You know, when Randy Orton's not, in the main event picture, he's not usually too far away. Like, I'm pretty sure the only time he wasn't in the main event picture was because he was getting punished for drugs or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But having these two, have basically continue their big ass feud that they've been having, but make it mean that much more. I understand why they did it. It wasn't the best match. I didn't really like it, but I understand why they did it.
Yeah, it was best for business.
Yep, it was kind of a no-brainer. It was kind of a no-brainer too, for what they actually ended up calling the belt, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Like, that makes sense because, I mean, if you really want to get technical with it, Randy Orton is not the first WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Because back before it was called the Undisputed Championship, back before that, what was the WWF title called? The WWF World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess you could kind of go with, it's kind of I forget the word, but you get what I mean. It's...
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if you remember this, but before the actual match took place, Michael Cole, he pointed out that this is different than when WWE crowned their undisputed champion, because he said that it was the WWE title and the WCW title, as if the WCW title wasn't the same thing as the... Yeah,
different label basically to have an excuse to say it's the first time ever, but we all know the one that Jericho and Triple H held was the same title basically.
Yeah, like it was the same title because the WCW title holds the same lineage that they were advertising for this undisputed championship match.
Hmm.
You know, all the way back in the NWA days when Ric Flair won his first title, like that all carried over to the WCW um, legacy.
Yeah, that's how WWE kind of promotes the championships too. They'll say
Yeah,
like even when the belt has like a million modifications, it'll still be considered the same belt
right,
that's held in like the 80s. Yeah,
right. Like the big
yeah,
gold belt was actually NWA for a while
yeah.
until the WCW kind of took it as their own.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's kind of like in TNA back when it was NWA title over there. They still consider guys like Jeff Jarrett back who held the NWA title. They still consider them former TNA champions, even though they've never held the newest belt.
Yeah, true. That was
But
TNA's world title for the moment, so.
yeah, that's all semantics though. Like they do whatever they want for publicity. It's not that big a deal. It's just kind of funny because
Yeah.
they want things to be bigger than it is.
Hmm.
The current thing that's happening with the title right now. This is what's today's date so that people know. Today's date
Yeah, the
is
first of the
Wednesday.
year.
Yep, Wednesday, January 1st, 2014. I can't believe I forgot that
Right.
today was the first. Like
Happy New
fucking
Year.
shit, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's today's date. So what we're working on now, the next championship match held at the Royal Rumble will be the rematch from TLC, except it won't be TLC. John Cena versus Randy Orton for the WWE World Heavyweight
It's hard
Championship.
not to call it the undisputed title, right?
Yeah. And so far, I mean, we really don't have anything to report on this other than, the opinions of what we just said because there's really nothing to it. It was just announced on Raw that it was going to be a rematch at the Royal Rumble. So far, there's been no extra feud things going on. It's just kind of like, oh, here's the rematch that we're going to have soon, and there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, now I know some people, there are some wrestling fans out there who thought, it may have been a silly idea for them to unify the championships and that WWE probably was just going for a publicity stunt, to get more ratings.
I don't, I don't think I know anybody that thought it was a silly idea to unify the titles.
Hmm.
I know plenty of people that thought it was silly to unify them at TLC instead of like at
Yeah, like
WrestleMania or
somewhere
something.
like
But
WrestleMania where it was the grandest stage and rather just their second
yeah,
great pay-per-view.
I mean, like even something like SummerSlam would have been better. But like TLC was kind of one of their B shows. But I
Yeah.
mean, I kind of give them credit though because when they first announced it, which was I believe what was it like the Raw after Survivor Series.
Hmm.
Um, they just announced that it was going to happen because John Cena came out. He's like, I want to be the real champion, and shit like that. And then, oh, suddenly we have a match at TLC about it. Like it didn't feel like it had any meaning, but as the weeks went on, they really promoted that match well, and by the end of it, I was actually starting to get goosebumps during the vignettes that they posted
Hmm.
about the legacy of both titles. Like I was sold on it.
Yeah.
So you know,
Yeah,
I'm
I get.
I'm
Yeah, it seemed like it did make sense because if they didn't have that match, then Orton would have probably fought just a random opponent.
probably would have been a rematch against the Big Show.
Yeah, so it's almost like they were kind of forced to do that anyway. And the same
Yeah.
thing as they did with the tag team titles. But
Right.
but yeah, I don't want to get too off topic. I know we were mentioning what the current situation was with the
Yeah.
championship, like who's the next
Um,
contender is going to be.
yeah. Actually, before we get to who the next contender will be or who we think might win,
Hmm.
what do you think they're going to do with the state of the belts? Because they just introduced this new WWE title belt, but now they unify the titles. Do you think they're going to have another brand new belt? You think they're just going to, absorb the world title into the WWE title and keep the new belt? Like, what do you think? What's your opinion on that?
I think at some point they are gonna make a new belt, despite The Rock, creating this new WWE Championship just right at WrestleMania. I mean, that's still pretty recent, even though it happened earlier in 2013. But at some point when they had the original Undisputed Championship, they turned it into the brown and black one, the belt that we knew for a while. That was actually a pretty cool design.
Oh man, that was that's still probably my favorite championship belt, the WWE championship, like right after the one that JBL held.
Yeah, that's
Call
the
it.
best way to.
Like that's always been my favorite one. Just because it looks fucking pretty, like
It,
and not a female kind of pretty. I'm saying like
yeah,
that thing looks like it's got all the prestige in the world, and it's kind of big. It's not like
yeah, I can tell it has some weight on it.
yeah, it's still my favorite belt, but the big gold belt is definitely up there with me because just the thing. I could never make out any of the fucking thing on it. It's just a big gold piece of fucking gold, but it gives you that feeling. Like,
WWE Championship.
right. Whenever I think of a world champion, that's the belt that always comes to mind. So I'm kind of torn between the two designs, but I also don't think that if they were to do a belt absorption instead of making a new belt, I don't think they would want to go with the world title design because it's not really WWE's thing, you know. So if they were to just do an absorption, it would definitely be the brass ring belt coming out coming out of the absorption thing.
It's interesting that I wonder if they're gonna go for the big W again, or probably just. Well, I mean, I guess the Rock's belt was no different than a design like the Smoking Skull or $1 Million Championship, so they can pretty much do whatever they want with it when they decide to fuse them if they go about that.
Yeah, I mean, part of me kind of wants a new belt, but I did kind of get used to this current iteration of the belt. Like, it kind of makes sense. Like, after I saw it a few times, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. You know, like I don't really see it as being the Rock's belt because like he only held it for fucking a month.
Yeah.
But you know, if they stick with it, I'll be happy. If they don't, as long as it's not another fucking spinner, I'll be all right.
Let's not do a spinner again. I mean,
Right.
spinners were nice. I think spinners were in style when Cena first became champion. Like when he first did the U.S. title, that was the best thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. I just wonder when they start having other people compete for this championship, they might want to make it one belt
Yeah.
because it don't look right if every single person holds both belts. There's only so many people who looks right with both belts. Kind of like, Orton.
I mean, back when they did the Undisputed title with Chris Jericho and everything, he held both belts, and then Triple H held both belts. But who was the one that first got the Undisputed title, like the new belt? I can't exactly remember.
Let me see. That's a good question, actually. Gotta double check on that, actually.
Because I know a lot of people held that belt when it was still called the Undisputed title, because that was before we had the world title introduced. I know The Rock did. I believe Hogan even did.
Yeah, Hogan did have it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that this has to be one of my favorite designs, too.
But yeah. That's...
Oh, was it Brock Lesnar?
Was
it The Rock? Wait, let me see. Wait, no. Jericho. Brock Lesnar is exclusive to SmackDown. To remedy this, the big gold belt was brought back to represent the new World Heavyweight Championship. Well, now I'm reading something else.
I know all that happened because Triple H was just given the world title. But I can't remember when they first fused the belts. I just remember Triple H and Jericho specifically were the ones that held, both the belts at the same time. I just can't remember when they were finally became one belt.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know. That's not exactly important right now. Maybe
Yeah, we probably just move on.
yeah, we'll find out at another day. We didn't do research on this topic because we didn't think we were going to come up with that particular problem.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's really all we got to say about the belts themselves. As far as the championship goes, who do you think is going to come out of the Royal Rumble with the championship?
It seems like, see, there's different scenarios that can happen because with Batista coming back and Lesnar being an automatic number one contender to whoever wins between Cena and Randy Orton, it almost seems like if Orton kept it till WrestleMania, he'll be fighting one of those guys. But
I mean, the timeline doesn't really hold out for me because we got what Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber left until WrestleMania.
yeah, so they
So
really have to, yeah.
like the Royal Rumble match is already decided, but the Elimination Chamber isn't the title competed for in the Elimination Chamber match.
It is now. The interesting thing is there's not going to be two chamber matches anymore
Yeah.
unless one of them is a number one contendership match.
So the way I see it, it doesn't matter. Like it, well, just my scenario at least. It doesn't matter who wins the Royal Rumble championship match
Hmm.
between Cena and Orton because I believe that both of those guys are going to be in the Elimination Chamber match for that title. And like Lesnar says he's already going to be the guy to challenge for it. Maybe he'll be in the Elimination Chamber match as well. And Batista seems like it'd be a good idea to throw in there because he's definitely going to be in the main event picture during his run. And at that point, you've only got two more people that need to be in that match. You know, maybe throw in CM Punk. You know, maybe not necessarily to win, but because you know he's going to help put on a show there.
Yeah,
Unless he's still doing his thing with the Shield, but who knows what'll happen in that situation.
yeah, true.
And maybe even Daniel Bryan. Like we have no idea where he's going right now, but I can't really think of a better six guys to have in that chamber match than those six. Really, I guess we'll have to see. Elimination Chamber is still like 2 months away, so a lot can happen between now and then.
Yeah, WWE is pretty good about bringing people back towards the last minute. I mean, I guess it's like The Undertaker, how he pretty much pops up at WrestleMania time and now he has a big match.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yep. All right. So that pretty much covers the WWE World Champion picture. What else? What else we got?
how about that situation with Brian finally joining the Wyatt family?
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing. I can't say that I didn't. That's a very appropriate sound
Snake?
to play in the
Snake!
situation. Um, but yeah, let's see here. Let me mute that real quick. Okay, so yeah, Daniel Bryan joining the Wyatts. People say that he turned heel. I don't necessarily think so. Just like we've seen people in situations where they've had to be aligned with a heel stable or with a heel, but still manage to be a babyface. And Bryan can still be that guy. And I'm not saying he's got to be the same nice, complete babyface Daniel Bryan. I think that instead of being a heel turn for Bryan, it might even become a face turn for the Wyatts. I don't necessarily mean a full-fledged face turn either. Like I'm not saying they're all going to come out and start picking daisies and stuff. I'm saying like they could actually become a tweener stable because now with Daniel Bryan on their side, who is still the most over guy in the WWE, they could be like that deciding factor. Like now he can be in the title picture again because they're fucking shit up with him and the Wyatt family. Like you guys didn't give me my title shot no matter how much the fans cheered, so now I'm going to start beating the shit out of everybody until you give me that title shot. And it's going to make Daniel Bryan, essentially what Stone Cold was, just a guy who kicked ass, took names. Didn't matter if you were a babyface or a heel, he'd still give you the stunner, and the fans would cheer their ass off for you. Like
Yeah,
I could see that being a situation with Bryan too. Give the character a little bit more edge.
yeah, neither like him or, well, you can like or hate him at the same time.
Yeah.
But so that is interesting because I wonder if him being with the Wyatt family would lead to championships being in the stable, kind of like with how the Shield started getting the tag team and U.S. title. But
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of agree about that. That might be something that might make the Wyatts a little bit more interesting. They're
Now,
already pretty popular right now.
yeah. Now the only thing I'm worried about though is the Wyatt family is basically supposed to be there to get Bray Wyatt over, to
Hmm.
make him, into a better star. It's not necessarily about, Luke Harper and fucking Eric Rowan.
Yeah.
Uh, but with Daniel Bryan joining the Wyatts, whether or not he's going to be a leader eventually or just another guy who's there, it's either, I don't really see it uh, allowing both Bray Wyatt to get over and Daniel Bryan to stay over. Because now you've got two people in there that you want to be over with the fans. You got Bray Wyatt who's trying to get over, and you got Daniel Bryan who hopefully you want to stay over. So how do you do that? Do you make it so that there's a constant power struggle? Like Bryan doesn't want to join the Wyatts, he wants to take over the Wyatts. But even then, like if he does that, then if Bray Wyatt loses that altercation, then he's no better off where he was before. If Daniel Bryan loses, that's probably not exactly going to help his situation. So where do you go from here? Like if you make Bryan the leader, then Bray Wyatt's not going to be the guy that you wanted him to be initially. But if you make Bryan the lackey, he's not going to be seen as a main event player. So what are you going to do? I guess we really just got to wait and find out and see what they're going to do with it, because I
I
can't really think of anything.
I almost wonder if because you know how WWE is, they're used to putting people in a tag team. I almost wonder if they're gonna team up. Like Bryan and wait Bray Wyatt.
Very well.
Yeah,
I mean,
almost had a tongue twister there.
I think as far as tag teams go, they dropped the ball with the best in the beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could have been the greatest tag team ever. Like that was the happiest we've seen CM Punk in a long time.
Uh-huh.
When he was out there and they did that little fucking promo with Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, like that was funny. Like I didn't want that to be a permanent thing, because that would be that they would be demoted to the tag team division. But it was definitely a fun thing to see.
Yeah, two individuals teaming up.
Yeah. Now you know what I think might be a fun idea, and this is just completely going off the beaten path here.
Mhm.
Um, you got Bryan feuding. Well, it's still technically a feud, because like even though he joined the Wyatts, I don't think that scenario is going to be over. Like, but say that you got Bryan with the Wyatts,
Mhm.
CM Punk's feuding with the Shield, and everyone's like, oh man, the Shield's going to break up. What if they don't? What if instead of breaking up, fucking CM Punk decides to appoint himself leader of the Shield? Because if he beats their asses enough times, they've got no other choice but to accept him. So
Yeah.
maybe we get fucking at WrestleMania, we get the new Wyatt family with Daniel Bryan versus the new Shield under CM Punk, and I think that match could be exciting. But
And
I
we've
don't know. That's just me kind of going crazy with ideas there.
That's interesting because we have seen many scenarios where leadership changes in the stable,
Oh yeah,
and CM Punk has led groups before. I mean, he was with the Straight Edge Society, and he even was with the New Nexus for a while.
yeah. Like the new Nexus stopped existing because CM Punk started getting really over. Like they just kind of quietly phased out the new Nexus. They didn't have an official blow up and break up. It was just like, oh, CM Punk's starting to show up now, still wearing the new Nexus shirt,
Hmm.
but he doesn't have the Nexus with him.
So I wonder, like, if that was to happen, would the SWAT team gimmick even remain that interesting? You know, like a whole nother year of the SWAT team gimmick.
I mean, like the gimmick itself, like I don't mind, and I don't necessarily care if it stays or goes. What I'm the most worried about when it comes to the Shield breaking up and becoming their own guys is it's going to lead to a wardrobe change.
Yeah,
And
like
I don't know if I'm going to be able to take Roman Reigns as serious when he's just another big dude without a shirt on wearing a Speedo.
I see, or better yet, dressed like the Usos.
Right. Like, you never know. Like, new looks are, always a thing that's going to be there. But, seeing the Shield always gave me flashbacks of the Attitude Era
Hmm.
because they were guys who wore, pants and fucking, like, they're not shirts, but, they actually wore tops.
Yeah, yeah.
So it reminded me of that era. Like, two of the three guys have long hair and shit, So it's like,
Uh-huh.
same with the Shield. Like, you got two stables now that don't wear wrestling trunks. They're two stables that wear fucking, the Wyatts, they wear like casual clothes, and the Shield wears actual, SWAT armor or whatever. And like, I think that's a nice change of pace. Like, when a member of the Wyatt family's in the ring, even if you're watching from the rafters, because he's the guy that's not wearing bright red Speedos and with short hair and trimmed up face.
Yeah, not the traditional wrestling attire.
He's not the guy that is bathed in baby oil.
Yeah, but you do have a good point, worry, because it seems like out of the Shield, Roman Reigns would probably get the biggest push in terms of a solo star, and I feel like someone like Seth Rollins might be pushed to the mid card, even though he's really talented in the ring. Like, he puts on some of the sickest maneuvers in his matches.
Yeah, Seth Rollins is one of my favorite guys from the Shield.
Me too.
And actually, that's kind of a cop out because all three of the guys I like for different reasons. Like, Dean Ambrose is definitely the mic guy. Like, his voice is really raspy and shit, but
Leaving the show.
right, yeah, but he's definitely more in tune as a promo cutting guy.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns, he's got the voice to be a very to be a promo guy. Like, he's got a lot of bass in his voice, and
Yeah.
he doesn't sound like he'd be annoying as fuck to
Yeah.
listen to. Like, you got some guys that it sounds like they could cut good promos, but their voice is so grating that you can't take it seriously,
Uh-huh.
or their voice just doesn't fit with it. Like, kind of how I feel about AJ Styles. Like, the things he says is fine, but the fact that he doesn't sound like he should be saying it is what gets on my nerves.
Oh, I know what you
Comes to his
mean.
But as far as the three of those guys, I think they're all going to at least start off in the mid card when they finally break up. I don't think any one of them is going to skyrocket right to the world title picture.
Yeah.
I think it's a good possibility. And this kind of segues into our next topic here. We kind of talked about the Wyatts and Daniel Bryan as much as we could, but the next topic is the mid card division, the Intercontinental title, the United States title. I think there are two possibilities here for the U.S. title. Like, the IC title kind of doesn't matter much right now still.
Yeah.
It's still, it's in the hands of Big E Langston. He's a big dude, that's fine. But the United States title means even less because it's just been on Dean Ambrose, and he's been doing so much stuff with the Shield that whenever he does defend the title, it's just an afterthought. Like,
Yeah.
there's never really any serious.
Yeah, it's more like an obligation to defend the title
Right.
for him.
Like, he defended it at Night of Champions, and I think he defended it one more time since then. I can't really remember all the times he has defended it because it's been so negligible. But I think there's two possibilities with this. I could even see it branching off into one eventual one. But I think due to this past Raw, if there is a breakup that's going to happen, like if that's something that does happen, it could very well end up being for the United States title. Like, maybe Roman Reigns gets pissed off that Dean Ambrose just thinks he's the hottest shit. He's the only one in the stable with the title, which he might use as his little, bargaining chip kind of thing. Like, they might continue to argue about who the best is, and he's like, well, I know I'm the best. I'm the only one that's got gold right now, like kind of that. So one of the two guys, potentially Roman Reigns, maybe even both, maybe they could have a triple threat match once and for all to decide who the best is, like at first being like a friendly match because they're just three competitive guys, but then, like the title changes hands during that match within the Shield, and then like, they get pissed off about it, like, things that happened in the match, like, oh, you got my title now, I want a rematch. Then the other guy's like, I didn't win, but maybe I was the guy that didn't get pinned, so I think I deserve the match too, whatever. Like, kind of an interstable competition that goes on where, dissension still builds up, but they're not exactly broken up. It's just kind of getting worse. And
that's always interesting to see as well.
I think that could be cool. I'm not necessarily thinking it's a possibility, but I think that'd be cool to see. A match between the three guys. Like, obviously, we've never seen them fight each other within the entire year they've been around because they've been partners.
And what makes it interesting is their fighting styles are so different.
Yeah, I think it'd be a very interesting triple threat match if it were to happen. Another possibility I think could happen, if not like right before this happens, or even independently, I don't know, is that they might be trying to actually unify the two mid-card titles as well.
I can see that.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, didn't both champions have a match against each other not too long ago?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they usually have those champion versus champion matches from time to time. So, yeah.
Yeah, so like I could see Big E Langston versus Dean Ambrose for the title and actually like unify the titles, or maybe it could be big guy versus big guy. Like, if any possible way that former scenario works out, where Roman Reigns wins that title away from Ambrose, maybe after they've already broken up, they can unify it in a match against those two guys, because that could be a big man match that could actually be fun to watch. Because I normally don't like watching big dudes brawl it out because it's normally not that fun for me. But these two big dudes, Big E Langston and Roman Reigns, actually have, wrestling chops too. They're not just two guys that punch and that's it,
Yeah.
So I think that could be a good match if we're gonna unify the titles like that. But I don't know. Like, I think I want them to unify the titles, not necessarily make a new belt, but just like absorb the U.S. title into the Intercontinental title.
That would at least make I think that would give an extra push for the mid-card matches and make them a lot more interesting, because it's either one side is people challenging for the IC title might be doing better than like than the United States title, which isn't challenged for at all.
Yeah. Plus, if you think about it, like throughout history, ever since it was introduced, the Intercontinental title has always been the second belt.
Yes.
To the WWE title, like, it was always how it was. So it can't be a new belt. Like, it would just, if they do make a new belt, it will still be the Intercontinental title. But here's what I want to do. Like, the current, what I want to do is if I have control.
Right.
But here's what I'd love to happen, because it brings me to my other favorite belt design. The Intercontinental title we have right now, the title belt, it's like the classic version,
yes.
The one that's Macho Man held. So, Cody Rhodes brought that back when he was still doing the bag over your head gimmick. What I kind of want them to do is, if they do unify the belts, the guy's holding both belts for a while, then they bring out his new belt. It's the Attitude Era style oval design.
That was one of my favorites.
Oh man, that's probably in my top 5 favorite belt designs. Like, I love that design so much.
Me too.
And it's so simple. I don't know why I love it so much, but I fucking love it.
Yeah, not too much going on it. Like I said, it's simple. I mean, but it looks perfect at the same time.
Yeah, it looks like an awesome mid-card title. There's not a lot going on, but it's still it's a really good looking belt.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much all we got to talk about. Like we're covering a lot for like every division here, so it's not like we're just saying a couple of things and then moving on. So I guess we could segue into the tag team division now. Shit, who are the current champions? Oh yeah, that's right, the Rhodes Brothers.
Yeah, I really like them as champion because it seemed like they set a pretty high bar. Goldust, I think this is Goldust's best year in pro wrestling. Like he's in his prime right now. Like just the way he moves in the ring, he's like a hybrid wrestler.
And the funny thing is, he's not in his prime. Like he's much older than his prime, but he's moving like he is in his prime. Like you could tell that he's putting it all into this last run.
Yeah,
and I'm hoping that when he does leave again, because I don't think this is going to be a long, long run, I'm hoping that when he leaves again, it's just like, he's gone, instead of like he slowly toils around in the mid card and never gets featured on TV and then he leaves.
Yeah,
like
I think they should
normally do with him.
If he's going to retire, he should probably stop after this. Like you said, he shouldn't be jobbing to people all of a sudden when he puts on some awesome stuff. Like,
right.
What's the one move where you flip forward and it goes into a pin? I forget that one.
Flip forward into a pin? The sunset flip?
Yeah, I'm guessing that's what it is. But yeah, that team is definitely good. The Shield is a legitimate team.
Yeah, they're not so much in the tag team division anymore now, but
yeah,
they've been doing stable rivalries now. Like they're dealing with it. It's a one man feud against an entire stable with CM Punk, so that's what they're doing now. We also got the Usos.
Usos are really good for the tag division.
And cough cough, Rey Mysterio and Big Show.
Yeah, I think those are like the worst type of tag teams. Like the ones where you just take two individuals, like, hey, we should probably go for the tag team titles because we got nothing better else to do.
Yeah. And especially now that they've got like an actual tag team division starting to come out.
Yeah.
Goldust and Cody Rhodes is fine because they're brothers,
Yeah. And it's kind of a tradition,
Yeah, like that's I accept that, though I do still consider them two separate stars.
Yeah.
The fact that they're getting to have a tag team run as brothers from different generations of wrestling, I consider Cody Rhodes to be a third generation superstar because I consider Dustin Rhodes, his older brother, to be that second generation.
Yeah.
Just because his dad was fucking both their father, that doesn't change much for me, to be honest. Because like they were both from completely different generations. Fucking we had Dusty Rhodes during the old school era, old school, and we had Goldust during like the pre-Attitude Era, just getting into the Attitude Era, and now we got Cody Rhodes like shortly after, or right in the middle of the Ruthless Aggression Era. So yeah, they were separated by quite a lot. So it's kind of cool to see them tagging together. And once, like, I don't think they're going to be multiple tag team champions. I think once this time is over, it's pretty much going to be done. They might have the rematch, and then they'll probably feud against each other, because I don't know how they could do it within 3 months, but seeing a Cody Rhodes versus Goldust match at WrestleMania might be really fun.
Yeah, it seemed like everyone could tell that that's going to happen. Establish yourself as a successful tag team, and actually, that'd be a hell of a match. Hello?
Hello?
Oh, okay, I thought it cut off. Yeah, Real Americans, what do you think about them?
I like the fact that they are a heel, stable. They're a tag team with a manager, but a heel tag team. But they're getting like babyface pops now.
Yeah, heels would appeal.
Yeah, ever since fucking that giant swing that Cesaro did, like they've just been getting cheered, and like people will still like bash on Jack Swagger, but as a whole they get cheered, when they come out, even though they're supposed to be bad guys. And I don't necessarily think they need to become baby faces, because they're kind of like Edge and Christian back when they were heel and they were doing that funny shit.
Yeah.
You know, like fucking, it's starting to become a thing where people like it when Zeb Coulter comes out and just completely shits on the fucking current town they're in. Like, people are happy about it now, you know?
Yeah,
like,
get up and be like, "Wait the people."
Yeah.
Wait the people.
Yeah, like, I think it's a really cool dynamic that we haven't seen in a tag team in a long time. And I want them to kind of stay together as much as possible, but I also want them to actually matter, because I haven't, you know, they're not in the tag team championship runnings, you know, they're just kind of beating up on freaking damn it, now I can't even remember his name. He hasn't been relevant in so long. The Great Khali and fucking guy who I can't remember with the Cobra.
He's which guy again? You said
The one with the Cobra.
Oh, Santino.
Yeah, Santino.
Yeah.
See, that's how bad it is. I couldn't remember his name, and I like the guy.
Yeah, he's part of WWE's entertainment department.
Right, and that's kind of what they're doing. They're just kind of like toiling away in that area. Maybe they're waiting for a good time, like, because Cody Rhodes and Goldust are kind of still doing their thing right now. But I guess we'll see. After the belts come off of Cody and Goldust, we'll kind of see how much more the tag team division kind of gets to where it should be. Because I think the whole Cody Rhodes and Goldust thing, getting the shot and getting the titles, was a last-minute decision. Because if you remember, like, a couple of weeks before they won the title, the Usos actually earned a shot at the titles, but they never got it.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah. So I'm
Usos...
pretty sure they just kind of put it on the back burner and are gonna come back to building up the tag team division more after Cody Rhodes and Goldust finally have their run ended.
Mm-hmm. Primetime players. You see them every once in a while, but can you see them as serious contenders for the tag titles one day?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think because it's not like it's the World Heavyweight Championship, you know. Tag team champions could be anybody.
Yeah, true.
You know, like fucking Nor Vernum and the other fucking guy. Like I could easily see them being TNA tag team champions. You know, not because I think the titles are a joke, but just because you could put the tag titles on anybody and it would make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that. Yeah, they should definitely be tag team champions one day. Like if the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov could be tag team champions, then fucking primetime players can be tag team champions.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, if they keep trying to actually build up their tag team, it'll become a lot more interesting again.
Yeah. From there, I guess we got the women's title. I'm sorry, I can't call it the Divas title. I just can't. The women's championship.
Yeah, I think that division is struggling right now because when they introduced Total Divas, it turned the women's the women's division into a big ass stable. Like it's either Total Divas versus non-Total Divas and AJ.
You know what I kind of see this as? I kind of see it as a parody of the Invasion angle from 2001.
Right.
And the reason why is because right after the show started airing, everybody who wasn't on Total Divas immediately became a heel, and everyone who was immediately became a babyface. Because I still remember the promo that AJ Lee cut right after that, and against everyone who was in the ring. And the Bella Twins were still heels at this point. But then the next Raw, they were suddenly baby faces, like by no explanation. And, you know, now they're just kind of feuding over something that doesn't matter. And I think it's kind of a train wreck, but, you know, I like AJ Lee. I think she's the best diva that they've got, like, because she's good on the mic. Like, she's really good on the mic. She's the only diva that people cheer for.
She's excellent.
Yeah, like, she's not, like, ridiculous in the ring or anything, but she's not bad either. Like, keeping the title on her at least for a little bit longer will help me at least, because I actually like her. And not to say that I don't like a lot of the other divas, but I don't. I think I like Natalya because she actually has skill, but she doesn't really have much of anything else.
Yes, it's you either have all the charisma in the world, or you can wrestle, or you're just a doll. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, a lot of them just play all the Barbie makeup stuff. That isn't really appealing for a women's division.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, TNA, they don't have that many knockouts anymore, but they have a much better women's division.
I don't know.
Well, I guess back then it was a lot better. Nowadays it's kind of meh.
It's kind of the same. Like,
yeah, well,
I
don't want to.
when you think about it, you in TNA, you have a petite, not big-breasted, technical wrestler paired up with a big beast of a woman that nobody in their right mind would fuck, and they're going up against an above-average sized woman.
Yeah.
Who's known to get physical. Like in both scenarios, you have exactly that. Like ODB and Natalya, I know you can't really compare those two, but I just did.
Yeah.
So
What's sad? TNA's women's division used to be good, but I don't know. I think they messed up with. I don't want to get too much off topic from WWE's, but I don't understand why Lady Topper was teamed up with Gail Kim. I figured, Lady Topper was going to be the next Awesome Kong or Karma, and then that was probably going to give Gail a face turn.
I was excited for a while because like I had stopped watching TNA, and then the night I start watching again, that thing happened.
Oh my god!
So I saw like Gail Kim, and I noticed she was getting cheered, and I was like, oh, do I finally get to see Gail Kim as a face? Like I'd never get to see that. I always get to hear her terrible promos.
Yeah.
And then like she turns heel at the very end. I'm like, son of a bitch, I missed my chance again.
Yeah.
Talking about Gail Kim for a second.
Yeah.
I love her because she's Asian and she doesn't have gigantic breasts and she's a wrestler. That's fine with me.
Me too. Is like one of my favorites.
But whenever she talks, oh my god.
Like, I'm gonna fight you tonight.
Like, Asian women should not talk that loud unless they have, there are a couple of bassy voiced Asian women out there. I've seen quite a few of them, and their voice is angelic. But if you sound like if you're one of those Asians that have the voice of a 12-year-old girl, don't cut wrestling promos. It sounds so, because like wrestling promos, you're supposed to, I'm not saying that Gail Kim's bad at it. I'm just saying she sounds terrible.
I don't know if it's just a heel exaggeration at the same time.
It's just so grating on the ears. But I'm a fan of Gail Kim.
Me too. Always been.
Since I listed before, and I've seen her breasts, and I think they're fantastic.
Yeah, I think everyone has at this point.
Yeah. But yeah, basically, I don't know. The women's division is just kind of a wreck, no matter where you go nowadays. I guess if you want to watch female wrestling, watch Shimmer.
Is that still around?
I don't know. Like I've been meaning to try and watch it one of these days, but then I don't.
It seemed like there's minimal women's divisions. I think there's a few in Japan. Oh
yeah, you want to see Japanese girls beat the fuck out of each other? Watch Japanese pro wrestling.
Or watch Want to Be the Strongest in the World.
Yeah, I've actually been. I started watching that today.
It's actually good despite the fan service.
I mean, the only problem I have with it so far is all from wrestling standpoint. Like, I'm sitting here watching this fan service anime because of the wrestling. Like, I told that to someone, they were like, what the fuck's wrong with you? I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I need to get my fix of wrestling and anime.
Yeah. Well, no.
My biggest problem with it so far, and I'm only like just 10 seconds into episode 3, is that everything is a fucking super close up. And I suppose that's to exaggerate the fan service, and that's fine if that's what they want to do. But I can't see the moves. Like, there's been like 20 times within the first 2 episodes that I couldn't tell the difference between a Boston crab and a half Boston crab. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, seems to be everyone's finishing move in this fucking anime, because, like, this bitch is tapped out in the first 10 episodes to a Boston crab. I mean, the first 2 episodes to a Boston crab 10 times.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna give up to a Boston crab again? Come on. Like,
Yeah.
you would think you'd be flexible enough by now.
That's too funny. Well, I guess not to get off too much off subject, but it is related to women's wrestling. The show does actually get better towards the middle of it. But yeah, it's gonna start out with a lot of fan service, but if you can kind of
Right.
last through it, yeah.
I mean, like, anything to get your show on the air, and then once it's on there, go ahead and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's see.
So,
I think we covered like every division.
yeah, the women's division, like, I had better things to say about an anime than I did the actual women's division.
That was why I brought it up.
Yeah. As far as, like, I mean, we haven't really touched on anything TNA too much. We don't really need to, because they're not doing a lot. The only real thing they have is a big problem. Magnus, new world champion, that's fine. But AJ Styles officially doesn't have a contract with TNA anymore. And he's still their world champion. So they got 2 world champions. One of them is technically not employed. So I actually thought of something. If there was anybody that was loyal enough to TNA to make this work, it would be AJ Styles. Like, right now, everyone's thinking, oh man, you know, TNA fucked up. They couldn't even get AJ Styles back. He's like, he is TNA. And then I thought about it. What if this is the greatest ruse in the history of pro wrestling? What if, yes, he's not contracted to TNA, but that means that he can compete in Ring of Honor, which he is going to. He's already got a date schedule, yeah.
January, yep.
So what if he does a few dates for places that he normally couldn't get under contract, and gets a few things, like a few wins or something like that, under his belt?
Mm-hmm.
Then he comes back to TNA, and that was the plan all along. You know, I mean, I don't exactly know how they could do that, because, like, if he goes anywhere other than, like, Ring of Honor, you know, if he goes to WWE, I could tell you he's not going to get a bunch of wins under his hat and then come back to TNA. You know, like, that's not going to happen.
WWE will rewrite your damn history.
Oh yeah,
Like
definitely.
one quick example is, you know, R-Truth or Ron the Truth Killings.
Yeah.
So that guy, we all knew him as K-Quick in
K Quick.
earlier WWF days, but when he went to TNA, he actually became a NWA World Heavyweight Champion. But then his return to the WWE talked about he was in jail that whole time and he didn't accomplish nothing.
Fucking really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
like seriously, like I remember, I'm like, are you serious? Like, I remember the promo of him coming back, like, I've been in jail, I made bad decisions, but I want to do right this time.
Oh,
So
man.
now I want to entertain all the little Jimmies. What's up?
Oh. That's
Oh,
hilarious.
Yeah, that actually was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I would like to hope that AJ comes back, because he's like the last reason that I watch TNA. You know, like, they've done nothing but bad things with all the other people that I liked in TNA. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, Christopher Daniels is probably my second favorite guy in TNA.
He was one of my favorite wrestlers, period.
Yeah. And he's like a comedy guy now. Like, he's finally bridged the gap between Christopher Daniels and Curry Man.
Yeah, Curry
They are
Man
now-
is such a hilarious character.
They're now the same thing, because all he's doing is things that end up getting his ass kicked.
Yeah, bad influence.
Right.
Well, you do know at the moment TNA is having a lot of financial issues.
No,
So
they're apparently in the positive, according to Dixie Carter.
really, like storyline wise, or
No, not storyline wise, but I'm pretty sure it's a lie anyway.
it
I
has
think
to be.
I think her head is so far up her ass in kayfabe that she can't tell the difference anymore.
Man, that Popeye's chicken, Southern Popeye's chicken character has to go. How she talks with a Southern accent now.
Honestly, like, I disagree with a lot of people on Dixie Carter's current character. I think it works fine.
Uh-huh.
Like she's a heel. She's a bad guy now, which is new for her. Like she's trying to be hated, and
Yeah.
she's pulling it off. Like this is TNA we're talking about. They get nowhere near the amount of fucking people in their arena that WWE has.
Oh yeah.
But she's still getting booed so much harder than any heel I've seen in fucking
Funny.
WWE.
Like the fans have enough damn energy to boo her for like
Yeah.
a 10-minute promo.
And like, and you know, like I'm sure it's X-Pac heat, you know, like actual stop being existing heat, but it's still boos, man. You're getting a big ass reaction. Like holy shit. She comes out and she cannot talk because like, you know, they're just booing her so hard. She has to scream at the top of her lungs at that point.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, I kind of like her heel character right now. She's kind of a bitch, which is kind of what you need to be. Like, you know,
Yeah, in her position it
Yeah.
works, I guess, like he's saying. Yeah, the character works, and
I'm
it
not
must.
saying, you know,
I guess it works if we don't like it.
yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that it's going to end up being the next Vince McMahon versus Stone Cold, but as a heel character, I think she works.
Uh-huh. Yeah, someone, because if you're not getting hated, then you're not doing it right.
Yeah, and she's getting hated hard.
Yeah. Let's see, what else are they doing? But yeah, so it looks like right now, I guess TNA has it set up where you probably get paid by appearances. So someone can be the champion, but not, be on TV for a whole month. Like, you know
Really?
how, well, I heard this from one of my friends at least, but you know how like say Gunner and Storm were like the tag champs and you didn't see them for a minute
Yeah,
and then they come back on TV, or how we just finally saw the bromans pop up again.
yeah.
Yeah. So people show up occasionally in TNA. They don't get paid every night like WWE, from my understanding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's why you always see so many talent, or you'll see them every blue moon. Like people like Kenny King, you'll see him like one week. Oh yeah, I almost forgot he was in TNA.
Who?
Kenny King. Right.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Like honestly, I'm thinking hard here. Oh yeah, Austin Aries is the X Division champion,
Yeah, I
which
almost forgot.
awesome. By the way, though, I really don't like that new belt.
Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah, it's the Intercontinental X Division Championship. Like I would like it if it wasn't so like wide. Like I think it's way wider than the Intercontinental title was.
What?
It's like super wide. It's so fucking wide. Like if you scrunched it down a little bit and made it more of an oval instead of a fucking, you know, surfboard, then it might look good. But I just think it's like crazy right now. I like the color. You know, I always thought of the X Division as being a red title because it was always the red title, but since they changed everything to blue anyway, you know, the blue ropes, the blue Impact logo,
I
it
see.
kind of,
I see what
you
you're
know,
saying.
yeah,
They wanted to match the appearance.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because the tradition has been the big red X on like all the former or all the previous models of the X Division Championship.
Yeah. Yeah, but now it's a big blue X, and I'm perfectly fine with the color because that's a really fucking good shade of blue.
Yeah. Let's see what else is going on. So, Aces and Eights, they seemed like they were the most interesting thing in TNA in the beginning, and then they slowly started to just kind of drift away. And
Yeah.
now we have Bully doing this kind of like the AJ Styles angle when he was acting all emo, no one, and all of that stuff.
I call him Darth Bully.
Darth Bully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's trying to be a villain that's bigger than wrestling.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine because I think he's probably the best heel wrestling has right now. Like he does heel promos so well.
Yeah.
I just wish he was better in the ring. Like, you know, I just can't really get into him without Devon there.
Yeah. It's kind of like you need him to work with certain people to put on great matches. I thought his match against AJ at what was it, Slam of Earth? It was Bound for Glory.
Yeah,
I thought that match was really good.
yeah, it was a good match. Most of it was because of AJ, but
Yeah.
I think it was interesting that he pulled up the actual ring canvas and the padding and exposed all the plywood or whatever that was underneath that.
He had some ECW stuff.
Yeah, I thought that was nice. Like, the aces and eights angle I thought was retarded, but I'm not opposed to Bully Ray having a heel faction. It's just that the aces and eights did nothing for anybody.
It seemed.
It
Oh yeah, I'll let you
like
finish.
think about the Nexus, right?
Hmm.
Remember the Nexus?
Yeah.
It was a bunch of guys no one gave a fuck about because they were new guys. They didn't have anything going for them. But that was
Yes.
their whole gimmick. Like they were pissed off about it, so they were gonna raise hell. But at the end of the day, not even fucking the guy who was supposed to get over got over. Wade Barrett,
Uh huh.
who legitimately cared about Wade Barrett, thanks to the Nexus storyline. No one, because the Nexus got buried by John Cena, like
Yeah,
just
I remember that.
constantly. But it's kind of similar. Like Aces and Eights, they did have a few good guys once upon a time. They had Bully Ray when he joined. They had Bully Ray, uh, Ken Anderson, and Devon. And then I guess you could count Taz because he's the announcer, but I don't count Taz. So you had three guys that weren't exactly like fucking superhero level guys, but everyone else were just lackeys. Even Devon was a lackey. They didn't really uh, get a chance to get any of those guys in the stable over. And at the end of the day, the only one who came out better for it was Ken Anderson. But that was after he broke away, or was and then he came back. But he was already over to this level. So he didn't really get anything positive from it. It just, it just kind of just evened itself out. No one got more popular because of it. I don't think anybody got less popular because of it. It was a
Yeah.
waste of time.
Yeah, I don't think Garrett Bischoff made me like him more just because he grew a beard and played a heel character.
Yeah. I mean, I do prefer the beard on him, but, the heel doesn't really matter. Like, when you think about a successful stable, think about, like, Evolution back in the day.
Uh-huh.
You had the two new guys, Randy Orton and Batista.
Yeah.
Think of it like Randy Orton is Garrett Bischoff, and Batista is like fucking Nux or something, one of the big dudes. But then you have Triple H, who was one of the bigger guys of the Attitude Era, a multiple-time WWF champion, and he was leading the charge. And then as a mentor figure, you had Ric Flair, who many see as the greatest, pro wrestler that ever lived, Like, you had those two guys to immediately have legitimacy. The second the stable was formed, it was like, oh man, it's Triple H and Ric Flair. That's ridiculous. That's already good. But then, like, Batista's coming in, he's whipping everyone's ass without saying a word. They're like, oh shit, Batista, he means business too. And then Randy Orton, they built him up because they let him have his own identity. Batista was in the tag team with Ric Flair when the stable was going on.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I believe they were tag team champions at one point. And, Batista could be in that tag team with Ric Flair because he wasn't going to be overshadowed. Because Ric Flair was an old guy at that point, but he was still Ric Flair. But Dave Batista was fucking huge, so no one thought, oh, Ric Flair carries that particular team,
Nah, obviously Batista's the muscle of that team. And Flair is the tricks.
Yeah, and obviously Triple H was supposed to be the world champion out of the guys. And then Randy Orton, they let him have his own identity by being like an incredibly long reigning Intercontinental champion that had a lot of feuds under his belt too. They never did any of that with Aces and Eights. It was always about, when Bully Ray finally did join, it was about who Bully was feuding with. What he says goes. None of the other guys meant anything. Like,
Yeah.
there
Yeah,
was
he
never,
was the big boss.
yeah, like during the Aces and Eights storyline, before Bully Ray joined, it was a bunch of guys who didn't matter doing things that didn't matter. And it's not like, for example, using my earlier thing, pretending like Garrett Bischoff is the Randy Orton in the storyline. You should have given him a bunch of a bunch of his own feuds that he could work with and actually build him up as a star to where he could have got somewhere. Like, he could still be a part of Aces and Eights. Obviously, they would help him win matches. But you could help build legitimacy by, like, maybe putting the TV title on him. And where the fuck is that? But, help put the TV title on him. Start making him win matches. Maybe he could start saying shit like, yeah, no one ever took me serious because I was Eric Bischoff's son, and he's not even a wrestler. People thought that I just had the silver spoon in my mouth. Well, look at me now. I'm the, fucking longest reigning television champion in Impact history. That could have helped.
Yeah, yeah, if everybody was kind of given equal opportunity in the stable, kind of
Yeah.
like how the Shield, everyone. I mean, I know they started off looking like they just kind of were the backup guys for Dean Ambrose, but everyone kind
Yeah.
of became an individual.
Oh, everyone, like, what kind of was an individual. Like, I think always, because those guys were always a unit. Like, it doesn't feel like, unlike the Wyatt family, where it's obviously Bray Wyatt is the leader. Ambrose is like is the leader by association because he's the one that talks the loudest.
Uh-huh.
But the other guys get their share to talk too. They do just as much ass whipping. And I think that was like kind of a magical thing that happened with those guys because all three of them were new guys.
Uh-huh.
If you've never heard of any of the three before, especially Ambrose, because even I've heard of Ambrose before, if you've never heard of the three before, then from the outside looking in, it looked similar to the Nexus angle. It's like, oh, we've got these three guys coming in.
Yeah,
starting
new
to raise
bloods.
hell.
New bloods.
But unlike the Nexus, people took them seriously
Uh-huh.
because they were booked like that. They were booked a lot better than the Nexus was.
Uh-huh.
They were taking out people. They fucking had titles. The tag team championships were in there. U.S. championship got in there. And even though, especially at the time, those titles didn't mean much, they still had it. And they were still whipping people's ass.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like the Nexus, all they ever did was group beatings. Because I don't care who you are. Like, if you're one dude and you get your ass whipped by 12 dudes, that doesn't mean those 12 guys were stronger than you. It just means there were 12 guys.
It means a pack mentality,
Yeah.
as Michael Cole would say.
Like, obviously, 3 against 1 is still, going to be a challenge for the guy. But let's assume, do you think for 1 second that John Cena would get his ass kicked by 3MB?
No.
No.
He'd
Not
probably fight one of them off and push one of them into the other guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Some goofy stuff
So-
would ensue.
Even in a 3-on-1 situation, the 3 guys still got to be, legitimate dudes in order to kick the ass of somebody like CM Punk or John Cena, or, people like that. So it's a lot easier to book for a 3-man team than it is for fucking a big ass stable where everyone is a bunch of faceless dudes. And
Yeah.
as we said before, the dynamic between the Shield is so much better because all 3 of them are different guys. They got different styles. Like Dean Ambrose is like a technical wrestler. Seth Rollins is a high flyer, and then you got the brawler big dude and Roman Reigns. Like, they work so well together.
Yeah. They
Every
have a
one of
little
them-
bit of each.
Yeah, every one of them has an individual identity.
Mhm.
They're not just a bunch of guys who weigh less than John Cena. And they all wear the same trunks, and none of them ever get a chance to talk on the mic because they're trying to let Wade Barrett do that,
Uh-huh.
So it's working out a hell of a lot better, and I really hope that at the end of it all 3 of those guys, actually get somewhere, unlike Aces and Eights, where we started with. Like, I don't really expect to ever see Garrett Bischoff again. He might come back, but he's not going to come back to any kind of fanfare because no one cares.
Yeah. But yeah, see, we've been talking about that for a bit now, just so we're good on time and everything. Anything else in TNA that we probably want to talk about?
I would legitimately have sex with ODB.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's not something I want to elaborate on, but I'm just saying. I wouldn't.
Damn.
Yeah, like I would not do that. She's just good enough looking.
Uh-huh. She's pretty athletic in the ring. Like I've seen her do some, kick ups and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So what do you make of Jeff Hardy having some semi-retirement?
I don't really care. And like, it's not that I dislike Jeff Hardy. Like, he's the reason I started watching TNA in the first place. I saw a random commercial where it's like, and Jeff Hardy, like, oh shit, Jeff Hardy, But I mean, if anybody deserves to get a little break, it's Jeff Hardy.
Uh-huh.
Like, he's a dude that still continues to jump off way too high shit and land on his back.
Yeah.
And like matches that he's in, and I've always said this about Jeff Hardy too. Like, people call him a spot monkey, and I don't think that's incorrect, but he works so much better when it's not a one-on-one environment.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a tag team, but like, even like, say Jeff Hardy versus Magnus, the last match that we saw, that match would have been 10 times better if it was Jeff Hardy versus Magnus versus, I don't fucking know, Robert Roode or something, just anybody. And it wouldn't have necessarily been better just because of the addition of the third guy and what he brings to the table, but because Jeff Hardy has the kind of style where it's like, when he's the third guy or the fourth guy or anything, he suddenly adds a lot more to a match.
Mm-hmm.
Because of his spot monkey nature, Like, he could come in, throw a few moves, get power slammed, and then, like, the two guys will wrestle for a while. Then Jeff Hardy will come back and take both of them out with, like, a fucking crossbody or something. And then, like, he jumps off the fucking Empire State Building. And, and that stuff, it adds to a match because it's like, you got these two really good wrestlers, and then you got Jeff Hardy who just is going to make it better in that situation. But when it's just a one-on-one match with Jeff Hardy versus another guy, like, Jeff Hardy's not that good of a one-on-one wrestler because
he's not a traditional wrestling guy.
Yeah. He's a high flyer, so by nature he does nothing but reversals. Like, you throw him into the turnbuckle, he runs up and does a whisper in the wind. All right, but he's not gonna be the one that applies a headlock. Like, he's not the kind of guy to set the pace like that. So I consider him like to have a very John Cena style of wrestling, other than the actual, John Cena's obviously not a high flyer, but I'm talking about the pacing of the match is very much like John Cena. John Cena gets his ass kicked for 5 minutes, hits a couple of moves, continues to get his ass kicked for 5 minutes, hits a couple of moves, and then depending on whether or not he's going to win, he hits his finisher and then pins. If not, then he gets screwed, because it's very hard to beat Jeff Hardy clean, and it's very hard to beat John Cena clean. It's like
they're all over the place.
Yeah, it's a similar situation.
I agree about that. But yeah, he did need a break after a while. I just wonder if it's meant to happen in TNA, like he's still under contract and he's just taking time off.
Yeah. I mean, it might not even be a retirement thing. Maybe fucking Bully Ray brings together another fucking stable. Like, this time it's got Jeff Hardy in it. Like, they're both the mopey guys that don't like the way their career's headed. Like, who knows? It could be anything, but I'm not really banking on TNA doing a good job with it, because they kind of fucked up a lot of things.
They like to start good ideas, but sometimes have bad execution with them.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I keep using this example. The Ace and Eights could have been a lot better. They made them kind of crappy in the end.
Yeah.
Gail Kim had the perfect opportunity to turn face. Lady Tapa could have been a new threat. It's like she's one of those friendly giants or something. That's how I see her. Like, she does damage, but like she really has a heart or something. That's what she looks like.
Lady Tapa would be cute if she wasn't Lady Tapa.
Lady Tapa.
Yeah, like, it's weird because it's like like they put this fucked up hair on her. Like, oh god.
Yeah, big weave.
It looks so stupid. And like speaking of Lady Tapa, Tamina Snuka.
Uh-huh.
I don't like that she's the heavy, but I do like that she's finally doing something.
Yeah.
Like I thought Tamina Snuka would be awesome. She could easily be the next Lita, like her dad's a high flyer, maybe she could be a high flyer too, But the first time I saw her hit the Superfly splash, back before she was Lady Tamina, it looked kind of embarrassing. So like I was like, she needs to work on that.
Yeah, it's kind of like you just see him hit the move, and because it's a finisher, it should get a 3 count.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like she still needs a little bit of work, but she's definitely more believable as a heavy than she was just as a wrestler.
Yeah.
That's probably about it, isn't it? Like we've trailed on for quite a while here.
Yeah, I'd say at this point we've talked about a good deal, and you guys can kind of expect what to see in the near future.
Yeah, more of me rambling on about a lot of stuff, and Glenn like trying to get in a couple of words.
Yeah, but yeah, I'd say might as well go ahead and end it here. And thanks guys for what was you gonna say?
Well, I mean, this is only our first show, so we don't know how to open it yet. We don't know how to close it yet.
Yeah.
We only know the middle. We're talking, so.
Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get the fancy logo, the stuff. We'll get in the main event one day.
Yep.
Yeah, but guys, thanks a lot for taking the time out of your days to listen to our wrestling podcast and our thoughts. This has been Glenburg and
Lunakage.
Yeah, and we'll get another episode in the near future. Thanks for watching, guys. Happy New Year, and see you again.
Bye-bye.
Insert music.